Hi guys, this is week 2, second episode of Cherish TV. My name is Rama from the Cherished You, creator and founder. Thanks for joining me again. Today I will be talking to you about different kinds of energy, and particularly today's going to be about grounding and what grounding means. It gets thrown around a lot, how it fits into the structure of what I teach my clients, and how you can like sometimes we feel like we just identifying when you actually need to be grounded and versus when it's something else, because it could be something else. It's not always grounding. It's the most common thing that we kind of turn to, but it's also a term that gets tossed around a lot and no one actually really explains, well, what does it mean? How do I know when I need it? What do I do to get there? Other than just, walking next to a tree. What else is grounding? So we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit today, and hopefully you'll be a little bit clearer as to what this means and how to work with it. All right, so in my practice, what I teach people is really there's 4 energy phases. They're in not any particular order. This is the order that I teach them in, but these are energy phases that can happen in any given day, any given hour, in a given month, year. Time is irrelevant. Time doesn't actually exist. So time is not a factor here. Energy is quantum. So everything exists all at once. But in any given moment, in your now, you could need to be in any one of these phases. And identifying which one of these phases that you need to to kind of activate, that's actually one of the phase names, but that's not what I'm talking about. But which one of these phases you need to kind of work with is really important to know, so that you can kind of take care of yourself and make sure you're the best version of you for the day, or at least for that moment. So the 4 phases are grounding, activation, integration, and release. Those are the 4 ones. I don't have an acronym for it. I think it's GARE, but I'm not really all that crazy about that one. But so it's grounding, activation, integration, and release. Those are the 4 phases that I talk about a lot, and you'll see that come up a lot. We're going to dive into grounding a little bit today, so we can get really clear when I mention grounding what it is that I'm talking about. So it's super, super clear. I don't want there to be any what, I guess this is what it is. And no wishy-washy kind of crap. That's not what we're looking for here. We're trying to go for clarity, because when we're clear, then we can kind of take the correct action. We can trust our intuition. So in order to know what grounding is, we have to identify what not being grounded is. All right, this is usually how I do things. I kind of do a compare contrast thing, so it kind of makes sense, because usually we can identify when we're not grounding versus when we're grounded. Frankly, when you're grounded, you don't think about the fact that you're grounded. If you are, then you're probably not grounded yet. Just FYI, I'm just gonna throw that out there. But when you're not grounded, these are how you're going to feel. Again, I'm gonna be checking my notes just to make sure I hit all my points. You're most likely going to be overthinking a lot. I am guilty of this. I am a chronic overthinker. I always value my logical thought over my emotional health. This is why it's been a very long process for me to integrate the 2 of those. But if you're overthinking, you are most likely not grounded. Anxiety, another version of overthinking. And not being in control of your emotions. So you're really quick to fly off the handle if you're feeling mad, if someone kind of takes you off. You don't have that moment to pause. That moment's not there because you're not grounded. You can feel kind of flighty or untethered. This is the best way I can describe this is kind of like a live wire. So when you have outlets in your house or wherever you live, or if you think about just the electric poles that are flying around in our environment, a live wire is one that sparks all the time, or is a socket that's going to give you a shock. Why is it giving you a shock? Because it's not grounded. So that electricity doesn't have a stable place to come in and out of. We're just exactly the same. If you think about it, our bodies is mostly a nervous system, and our nervous system is mostly just electricity. And if we don't ground that energy, which is what it is, that electricity that runs our body, if we don't ground that energy, we are going to be very frazzled. And that's where that frazzled, but you can tell when somebody's really frazzled all the time, or really stressed out. Stressed out is another term for not being grounded. That feeling that we've all been there, we've seen people who are like this, that is also a symptom of not being grounded. That's being ungrounded. Being angry or irritable, again, not control of your emotions, really quick to fly off the handle. Being angry at like simple things, irritable, moody, those are all signs of not being grounded. And desire for vices. So these are, this is coming from somebody who has had her share. Your desire to smoke. Maybe you're going to feel like shopping, eating a lot. Overeating is really common with women in particular. We all have had some sort of disordered eating at some point of our lives, unfortunately. Desire for sweets. Again, stressed out is a symptom of being ungrounded. One of the things that happens when you're stressed out is this is biological, but again, it's a symptom of being ungrounded, is when you're stressed out, you have an increased craving for sweets and salty things. So again, uncontrollable cravings, whether it's for drugs, if it's for alcohol, if it's for food, if it's for shopping, whatever your uncontrollable cravings are, that's a symptom of being ungrounded. So hopefully you get a better idea of what feeling ungrounded feels like. We've all been there. We all know what this is about. We just don't in that moment think, oh, I'm not grounded right now, and that's why I'm feeling like this. This is something that comes with practice, but that's what feeling ungrounded is like. When you're grounded, what do you feel like? Now, it's going to be the exact opposite, the law of polarity, right? I just gave you all the symptoms of being ungrounded, so figuring out what you feel like when you're grounded should be pretty simple. You're going to be calm. You're going to be centered. You're going to be able to think before you react. You're going to be able to pause before you react. You're not going to be like, it's not going to be a split second, like no pause in between. You'll be able to be like, if somebody says something that's irritating or wrong, you're not going to be like, what the hell? You're going to be like, you'll be able to take a moment and be like, okay, do I need to respond to this? Reactive versus responding. Two different things. You will be reactive when you're ungrounded. You will be able to respond when you are grounded. Those are the two differences. At peace. Okay, now this is also a term that gets thrown around a lot, like find your peace, go for your peace. It just means that you are not frazzled. Now, when I say at peace, this really means that this is going back to that electricity analogy, which just means that you're grounded. And if you're grounded, the electricity just flows straight up and down. There's no extraneous things flying around. And you'll have control of your thoughts. This is like the most common thing, especially for those of us who have dealt with depression and or anxiety. Usually they come together, but if you've had one or the other, you will know what this is about. Is being able to control the thoughts in your head. If you do get negative thoughts, you do have thoughts that are telling you that you're a piece of shit, or you screwed up, or this, that, and the other, you're like, did I really? I was like, seriously, you'll be able to tell your brain to shut the fuck up. That's really what this is going to be about. So that's what happens when you're grounded. All right. So those are like the two really different things. That's really like how the best way that I found to explain what grounding is that when you're grounded, you are just unreactive and you're just centered. It's like we think very much like the Buddha. It's that thing, but it's in more human terms. It's just like you're chill. You're chill. And being ungrounded, you're just no. We don't want to be there. We don't like how that feels. It makes us you feel out of control. And thus you then expend that to the rest of the world. And that's no fun either, because then people get hit with your shrapnel and nobody needs that. Okay, so now that we've kind of explained ungrounded versus grounded, got that clear? Hopefully we got that clear. All right, how do we get grounded? It's always the how. People always get tripped up on this. And literally, you can get grounded in any number of ways. Some are more effective than others. You may have to test out a few different things for test out one thing for a week, see how you feel, maybe track it in some way. And then on another week, you try something else and see how that feels. And maybe it's a combination of things. For me, it's a combination of things. For most people, it's going to be a combo of things. But usually what it comes down to is, in the self-care structure, there's going to be a few things that will work really well. Number one is movement. This is why yoga is really popular. This is why you literally exercise of any form. People kind of, once you get into it, it's really hard to get off of it. Running is a really popular way a lot of people get grounded. Problem with running is, and I will say this till my head falls off, but I recommend certain exercise over other exercise, and I will explain to you this right now quickly, only because it's going to come up. I don't ever recommend an exercise that's going to break down your body. over the long term. So I won't recommend you running for 5 miles a day every day. It's just not, over the long term, you're going to break yourself down with everything else that we put ourselves through. And especially if you're not combining that running with other techniques to get you grounded by itself, it's just going to break you down. All right. HIIT training is really effective. I am one of those people that HIIT training is very, very effective to get grounded very quickly. I hate doing it. I've kind of come around to the fact that it is a necessary part of my routine. So I don't have a hate relationship with it anymore, but I've accepted it now. But when I first started it, I hated that it was so effective because I feel like I was breaking myself down. It's really hard for me to do HIIT training, but the challenge at the end of it makes me, I always feel better. I'm always grounded at the end of a HIIT workout. So for me, that works really well. Yoga works really well too. Yoga is actually designed in a lot of ways to get you grounded. Now, what type of yoga is going to get you grounded depends on you. For some people, the slow, steady kind of yin-ish yoga is really, really nice. It works really well for them to kind of connect to their body and get into that space where they can understand what their body is asking for. For other people, it's got to be vinyasa yoga. Again, something more fast-paced, but with that element to it. Now, I mentioned the HIIT training that I do. I also combine that with some yin yoga. This is to balance both two sides of my personality. There's a part of my personality that is very upbeat, very energetic. That's where the HIIT training kind of activates that part. And then there's the yin yoga, which is part of me, which is kind of like the lazy one, kind of like the slow one, takes my time, deliberates, and I have to find a way to integrate both of those. So I've integrated them in this way with my movement every morning. When I work out in the morning, I do HIIT, and then I follow it with some very slow, deep stretching, which helps me go from getting grounded in a physical, energetic sense to getting back centered into my body. These are the two ways that I combine those. Another way to get grounded is grounding meditations. We've probably heard about this, which is there's any number of them. Grounding meditations can be just meditating. I actually meditate laying down on the floor. That is grounding for me, to lay down on the floor. I've tried meditating any number of different ways. I hate sitting cross-legged and meditating. It is one of the worst things that I've ever done in my life. It's really boring. But when I lay down, I am fully able to get into my body. I like the fact, I like laying down on the floor and feeling the floor supporting me. That's very grounding for me. So if you've had trouble meditating, maybe try a different kind. Grounding meditations also include picturing yourself getting grounded to the earth, feeling like, or imagining yourself with like roots like a tree. Those are all really common things. If you YouTube this stuff, you'll find it. There's a truckload of it. Those are another example of how to get grounded. Earthing, tree hugging, these are the old school ways, and they still work. Sometimes laying down outside while I'm meditating is actually a really good combination. If I'm particularly ungrounded that day, I will combine all of these. Earthing is really just walking barefoot on earth, so not concrete or anything like that, but in grass, in sand. If you're by the beach, that's preferably my favorite one is walking in water. I like to actually, I'm more grounded in water environments than I am in earth environments. Ironically, even though I'm an earth sign, that I feel better in water. So I get more grounded. In a bath actually can be very grounding. I've done that too. That's also that's also really helpful if that's something that resonates with you. I would try that out too. If you've had trouble getting grounded or meditation just doesn't work for you, taking a bath sometimes works wonders. And it's because some of us are just more, feel more held, because that's really about grounding, is just allowing the earth to hold you, and understand that you are supported. That feeling comes better in water than from earth for some people. Tree hugging is an old school one too. Again, if you identify with the earth, if you love hiking and that kind of a thing, you're gonna be tree hugging is gonna feel really good for you. It's good for everyone. I've tried hiking, I've tried it a million times, and it's great once you get to the top, but getting there is a really hard problem for me. But if tree hugging works, if you are somebody who loves hiking or being out in nature like that, in earth nature, tree hugging is probably something that could also help you get grounded. So yeah, those are like, oh, and food, my favorite one, because I love talking about food. I don't know how I forgot that one. Food is also a quick way of getting grounded. The thing with food, though, it doesn't work on its own. You do have to combine it with one of the other things that I've mentioned. So either with a meditation, with a movement, spending time out in nature, getting connected to nature. Those kind of things are going to be needed in order for the food to work. But food can work to get you grounded too. Now, there's the old standards, which is root vegetables. So things like beets and carrots, potatoes, those kind of things work great to get you grounded. Meat, I know a lot of people, if whether or not you watch this channel and you are a vegan or a vegetarian, this may not apply to you, and that's totally fine. But I'm telling you, and I'm here to integrate. I apply both. So I'm not here to ostracize one group versus the other, but sustainably raised meat can help, and I'm talking specifically about red meat. So making, like, if you don't normally eat red meat and you're feeling, no matter what you do, you can't, if you seem to feel seem to get grounded, finding like eating a grass-fed burger can make a huge difference. Red meat, because cows, sustainably raised cows, do eat grass, and then they are able to digest that properly, and they're that when we get those nutrients via them, it actually helps our cells and our energy get grounded as a result. So that, in a nutshell, is really what grounding is about. It's just trying to make sure that you are centered, and I hate using that term sometimes because I think it's gotten kind of hijacked by by the spiritual community, and like all you picture in your head is like little tiny little Buddha, like with this, going like this or something like that, and it's so much more than that. But that, in a nutshell, is what grounding is. And when I talk about grounding, I'll be mentioning these things a lot. But that's really what it is. So if you guys have any questions, pop them down below. Let me know what's going on. I love to hear from you guys. Otherwise, I will see you all next week. So have a great week. Take time to take care of yourself. And I'll see you guys then. Bye.